Today we're diving into a serious workplace hazard that you might not hear about often, but it's affecting thousands of workers across the country: styrene exposure. Let's start with some background. Styrene is a synthetic chemical used heavily in manufacturing. If you've ever worked around plastics, rubber, or resins, you've probably been exposed to it. It's also known by other names like vinyl benzene, ethynyl benzene, cinamine, or phenylethylamine. Around 90,000 workers in the United States, especially those involved in making boats, tubs, and showers, face potential exposure to styrene on the job. So what does OSHA say? The current OSHA permissible exposure limits, or PEL, for styrene are 100 parts per million as a time-weighted average and 200 parts per million as a ceiling limit. But even with these limits, exposure can lead to real health problems. Health effects of styrene exposure. Short-term or acute exposure can cause skin and eye irritation, upper respiratory tract irritation, gastrointestinal problems. Long-term or chronic exposure can lead to much more serious effects. Central nervous system issues, symptoms like fatigue, headaches, depression, and weakness, even minor kidney function impairment. And these aren't just theoretical risks. Let's take a look at a real-world example. A company called Fiberdome was fined for exposing workers to unsafe levels of styrene. 2 employees were hospitalized and placed on work release, and over a 2-year period, they developed permanent lung damage due to that exposure. Originally, OSHA cited the company for 13 violations and proposed fines totaling over $63,000. After a settlement, Fiberdome agreed to pay just over $18,000 and implement changes to improve worker safety. This case is a reminder that regulations exist for a reason, and when they're ignored, people pay the price, sometimes with their health or their lives. So what can be done? The best way to reduce styrene exposure is through engineering controls and safe work practices. These include improving ventilation, using enclosed systems, and substituting safer materials when possible. But in some operations, like open molding with manual techniques, it's hard to keep exposure below the 100 ppm limit with engineering controls alone. That's where personal protective equipment, PPE, and respiratory protection come into play. Bottom line: styrene exposure is a real and present danger in many industries. If you or your team work around it, know the health risks, understand the legal exposure limits, use the proper controls and protective gear, and never ignore symptoms or unsafe conditions. Protecting yourself starts with awareness and continues with action.